3 Appalachian hunters heard their own voices, and every one of them ran. Not because something screamed at them, not because something chased them, because something called their name in a voice they recognized, a voice that belonged to a living person standing somewhere else entirely at that exact moment. There is a pattern locked inside these 3 accounts that sits in the chest like a stone once you see it, and nobody has laid it out the way it needs to be laid out. One detail connects all 3 men. It has nothing to do with what they heard. It has everything to do with how long they'd been going back to the same ground. Stay with me. Monongahela National Forest, West Virginia. October 2018. Cole ran a small engine repair shop on the edge of Elkins, West Virginia. Calloused hands, bad left knee that clicked on cold mornings, a dented green thermos he refilled at the same gas station on Route 33 every opening week since 2011. His brother Danny, 2 years younger, drove a septic truck for the county, hunted with the same stillness. The particular patience of men raised in the Appalachian Mountains, where the ridges run steep and the hollows go deep, and the forest doesn't give anything to someone who can't sit with silence. 7 seasons on the same ridge complex inside the Monongahela National Forest, nearly 1 million acres of eastern West Virginia hardwood and hollow ground. Between them, Cole and Danny had worn their small piece of it into their bodies the way a river wears stone. Slowly, completely. Cole knew which white oak flat held deer in the pre-rut. He knew which saddle funneled bucks between ridges at last light. He knew the specific way this hollow sounded at 6 in the morning in October. Crows working the eastern ridge, wind off Spruce Knob moving through the canopy in a low, steady hiss. He settled into his stand before first light on a Saturday in mid-October 2018. Thermos between his boots, bow across his knees, confident the way only a man who has done something 10,000 times can be confident. But the hollow sounded wrong. Not silent, just differently populated. The crows weren't working the eastern ridge. The woodpecker was gone. The wind moved through the canopy, but nothing moved beneath it. Cole filed it away and watched the tree line. At 6:40, a doe crossed the South Ridge clearing. Normal. October in the Monongahela, deer move at first light. He watched her without urgency. She stopped mid-crossing, turned her head due south, didn't move for 4 full minutes. No predator Cole could see, no wind shift. She didn't bolt, she simply stood, weight slightly back, head oriented south, the way an animal stands when it's listening to something it can't yet classify. Then she walked back the way she came, not running, walking. Cole explained it away and drank from his thermos. At 7:15 he keyed his radio. Their standard check-in, never missed in 7 seasons. Static. He tried again. More static. 11 minutes later, Danny's voice came through. Clipped. Flat. "I'm here. I'm fine." He clicked off before Cole could respond. Danny had never cut a check-in short. Not once in 7 years. That's when the smell hit him. Underneath the pine sap and leaf rot and cold morning air, something organic and slightly wrong, the way a wound smells before it's visible. Then the voice from the South Ridge called his name. Danny's voice. The exact cadence Danny used when he'd found a shooter buck and wanted Cole to move quietly. Not a shout. A directed call. The specific volume of a man who knew exactly where his brother was standing. "Cole, come down." "South Ridge." Cole climbed out of his stand. In 7 seasons, that voice had never been wrong. His boots hit frozen ground. He moved south, breath clouding in front of him. 40 yards, 60. The voice called again. Same distance, same direction. Patient, unhurried. Halfway down the ridge, the radio exploded with static. Then Danny's voice came through it. Real, slightly out of breath. Coming from the north. "Cole, why'd you leave your stand? Come back, copy?" Both sounds, simultaneously. His brother's voice from the north on the radio, confused, searching. His brother's voice from the south, ahead of him in the timber, still calling, still patient, same spacing, same inflection, as if it had practiced. Cole's feet locked to the frozen ground. The bow grip went slick in his palm. He ran, back up the ridge, crashing through frozen brush, not looking south. Danny arrived 12 minutes later from the north, visibly shaken, before Cole had said a single word. Because Danny had heard Cole's voice calling him from the east ridge at the exact same moment. Two voices, two ridges. Neither brother anywhere near either source. Whatever was in that hollow knew where both of them were. It knew both their voices. It knew the specific cadence each man used when he was calling the other in. 7 seasons of the same October mornings had been enough. Cole still hunts. Different county, different ground. A ridge he's only visited twice. The detail he can't stop returning to isn't the voice. It's the doe. She turned south, toward the voice. 4 minutes before it spoke. She already knew something was on that ridge. Cole keeps asking why she walked away instead of running. That's Cole's story. But here's what's strange. He's not alone. A high school biology teacher named Marcus, 11 seasons in the Cherokee National Forest in Tennessee. He walked 40 minutes in the dark beside his hunting partner. Except his hunting partner was 37 miles away the entire time. That's next. Cherokee National Forest, Tennessee. November 2020. Marcus taught high school biology in Johnson City, Tennessee. He corrected the Latin names of species when students got them wrong. He observed things for a living, classified things for a living. He had spent 53 years finding rational explanations for everything that needed one, and a few things that didn't. His hunting partner, Gerald, was a retired postal worker from Morristown. Mild sinus condition, bad knees. The particular reliability of a man who had delivered mail in every kind of weather for 31 years and had never once, in 11 seasons hunting the Cherokee National Forest together, been late to the truck. 11 seasons. The same trailhead in eastern Tennessee, the same pre-dawn ritual. The Cherokee covers roughly 650,000 acres of deep Appalachian hardwood along Tennessee's eastern border, and Marcus and Gerald had given 11 years of November mornings to their small piece of it. Marcus knew every route on that trail, every bend, every place where the grade steepened, and you had to lean forward into the hill. Gerald arrived at the truck at 4:47 a.m., right on schedule, same as always. Blaze orange cap pulled low, same boots, same posture in the headlights. Marcus fell into the ritual the way you fall into a familiar stride, without looking down, without checking your feet. They walked into the Cherokee together, Marcus in front. The trail swallowed immediately by darkness and deep woods timber, and the presence behind him was completely silent. No boot crunch on the frozen trail, no breathing. And Gerald, with his chronic sinus condition, always breathed audibly in cold air. A low, constant sound Marcus had walked in front of for 11 seasons without ever consciously registering it. Until now. Until it was gone. He told himself Gerald was having a good night. Sinuses clear, light on his feet. He kept walking. At the 20-minute mark, the thought arrived quietly. Gerald's breathing was gone, not suppressed. Gone. Marcus's brain produced the explanation before he could form the question. He kept walking. the trail bent north. The grade steepened. Behind him, nothing. No adjustment. No weight shift. No sound of effort. A fallen hemlock crossed the trail at the 30-minute mark, knee-high. Marcus stepped over it without breaking stride. Behind him, no sound of boots landing on the other side. No grunt of a man with bad knees clearing a thigh-high log. Marcus slowed. Didn't stop. Didn't turn. His body wanted to keep moving the way a person in a dark hallway wants to keep moving. Because stopping means acknowledging the silence. Because turning around means seeing what's in it. His phone vibrated in his breast pocket. A text from Gerald. Time-stamped 4:58 a.m., sent 19 minutes ago, while Marcus was already deep in the Cherokee, while the presence was already behind him on the trail. Overslept. Just got to the trailhead, heading in now. Footsteps stopped behind him. The trail was empty back to the first bend. He had to walk back, alone. Through 40 minutes of deep woods darkness on a trail that had felt completely familiar 20 minutes ago and now felt like something else entirely. The timber pressed closer on both sides. The Cherokee gone completely silent around him. The specific silence of a forest when something in it has stopped moving and is waiting. The frost stopped him. His own boot prints ran ahead of him, clear, deep, pressed into the frost in a clean line from the trailhead. And behind his prints, in the space where Gerald should have been, footprints. The right size, the right stride, the specific, slightly turned-out gait of a man with bad knees who had delivered mail on foot for 31 years. Marcus followed the tracks toward the trailhead. They stopped at a hemlock tree 200 feet from the parking lot. Not faded, not turned, stopped, as if whatever made them had simply ceased to exist at that exact point on the trail. No transition, no explanation. Marcus stood at that hemlock in the gray pre-dawn dark. He looked at the bark. He looked at the ground. He looked up into the branches. Just a tree. Gerald's headlights swept the parking lot at 5:34 a.m. He found Marcus already at the truck, engine running, not hunting. Marcus asked one question. Your text, did you send it from the road or your driveway? Gerald had sent it from his driveway, 37 miles away, at 4:58 a.m. While something that knew his schedule, his posture, and his exact stride was already 19 minutes deep into the Appalachian Trail ahead of him. Whatever walked beside Marcus that morning didn't slip up once, didn't make a single wrong sound. The only mistake it made was not knowing about the text. 11 seasons gave it everything it needed to pass for 40 minutes in the dark. It just didn't know Gerald was going to be late. That's Marcus, 11 seasons. 40 minutes in the dark with something that knew his partner's stride, his timing, his shape and headlights. But here's where it gets worse. Wade is next, a hunter from Corbin, Kentucky. 48 years on the same ridge in the Daniel Boone National Forest. What he saw through his binoculars, I'm still not over it. Daniel Boone National Forest, Kentucky, November 2022. Wade was 19 years old the first time his father walked him into the hollow, north-facing slope. Daniel Boone National Forest outside Corbin, Kentucky. His father showed him where the white oak flat dropped off toward the creek bottom, the place where the big bucks staged in the last hour of light before coming off the ridge to feed. Wade had a recurved bow and rubber-banded bootlaces and no idea he had just begun the organizing ritual of his entire adult life. He became a county surveyor. He helped map parts of the Daniel Boone's London Ranger District, which means he knew this ground professionally, legally, cartographically, in addition to knowing it the way a hunter knows ground, through the body. through repetition, through the accumulated memory of standing in a specific place at a specific time of year for longer than most people hold the same job. 48 seasons. Over 1,000 mornings and evenings in that hollow. He was in his stand at last light on November 28, 2022, the final evening of the season, with the ease of a man who has done something beyond counting. Bow across his knees, the deep woods going quiet the way they went quiet every November at this hour, light pulling back through the canopy in long horizontal bars. A buck stepped into the white oak flat at 30 yards, clean shot, perfect angle. Last legal light. Wade drew, and his fingers stayed on the string. In 48 years and over 60 deer taken in this hollow, he had never once failed to release a clean shot. But something in the deer's posture locked him. His body understood before his mind did. The weight distribution wrong in a way that arrived in his chest before he could name it. 60-plus deer had built in Wade an automatic grammar of deer posture. This deer was speaking that grammar with an accent. He held the draw and stared. The deer hadn't moved. A buck at 30 yards with a hunter at full draw should have exploded out of the flat. This one stood perfectly still, not the nervous sideways alertness of a deer that has caught a scent. Oriented toward him, weight squared, head level, the way a person stands when they have already decided what they're looking at. The hollow smelled wrong. Underneath the leaf rot and creek bottom cold, something flat and faintly organic. The smell of a room closed for a very long time. Wade's bow arm burned. He should have released. He raised his binoculars instead. Through the lenses, in the last horizontal bars of November light, the deer was standing on its hind legs, not rearing, the explosive panic of a startled animal, standing, weight distributed back, balanced, upright the way a person is upright, deliberate, held, chosen. Front legs hanging at a slight forward angle that wasn't a deer's angle. Wade held the binoculars on the face. It was wrong. Not monstrous. That would have been a gift. Not dramatically wrong in the way that announces itself and gives you permission to run. Subtly wrong. The proportions slightly off the way a portrait is off when the painter studied photographs instead of sitting across from the subject. The geometry present, but the life behind it absent. The specific vacancy of something that learned a face from the outside and is wearing it from the outside. It was his face. Not his face at 67. Not the weathered face of a retired surveyor from Corbin. His face from 48 years ago. The face of a 19-year-old boy standing in this hollow for the first time with his father, learning where the buck staged before last light. The face he wore the first morning he ever gave this ground his attention. Wade lowered the binoculars. He climbed down from his stand. He walked to his truck at the pace of a man who has decided not to make any sudden movements. He drove home. He didn't speak about it for 3 weeks. When he finally told his son, who had hunted that same hollow for 22 seasons of his own, he left out the face, said he'd seen something wrong with a deer. His son was quiet for a moment. "Yeah, I had something like that last season. Didn't say anything because I thought you'd think I was losing it." Wade asked one question. "Did it have a face?" His son was quiet for a long time. "I didn't look that long." 48 years of Wade in that hollow. 22 years of his son. 70 combined seasons of the same ground, given freely, returned to annually. Accumulated by something that had been watching long enough to wear 2 generations of their faces. Neither man has been back. Wade still drives past the exit for that hollow every November on his way to his son's place. He says he always checks the rearview mirror after he passes it. He's never explained why. He doesn't have to. Here's what I promised. Every single one of these men reported the same thing before the encounter. Complete silence. No birds, no insects, nothing. But here's what nobody talks about. The silence came before they noticed anything wrong, which means it wasn't reacting to them. It was already waiting. So here's your warning, and I mean this seriously. If you're ever deep in the Appalachian Mountains and the woods go completely silent around you, don't investigate. Don't call out. Don't answer anything that calls your name. Just leave. If you've hiked the Monongahela, the Cherokee, or the Daniel Boone, drop it in the comments. I'm reading every single one.